Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no coping. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, this is a friendly reminder that we are here for entertainment purposes only. We may not even be that entertaining at times, but this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor, check with your healthcare professionals before making any lifestyle changes or medicine changes. What we're talking about is our clinical experience and what we've seen. And so if you really want our advice, you can consult us. You can actually consult me as a doctor, or you can consult my guest and get all your questions answered. But we can't give free medical advice because we can't pay our bills with that, but we can help to educate you a bit and allow you to think a little bit. And always reach out to your medical professional before making any lifestyle changes. Thank you. Hey, everyone. This year is flying by. I think every year flies by, but this one has been really quick. We're in August now. I just want to thank our sponsors for bringing all these great episodes. Today is no exception. This is a powerful, important episode. So I just thank you guys, everyone, for listening, everyone who's been supporting us and for listening, for tuning in, because there's so many other things you can listen to. But I would like to thank Keto Mojo. They're my go-to device for checking ketones and glucose levels. And they do a lot of great research. They're really pushing the envelope with some of the science, and also just really helping to support practices like mine and patients like you. And so, Keto Mojo, keto-mojo.com. They have great information, great videos online, but it really helps us to track our ketones, and we get excited when they start going up, and kind of realize we have to make some changes when they drop down. So if we want to be in fat burning mode, the best tool we have is Keto Mojo. So I thank them for their support. And also Health Code, Ben Bickman and brother Joel, who from this podcast. They're doing some great stuff. Their nutritional advice is excellent. Their life advice is outstanding, and they're doing just great work. So I'm so honored to have them as a partner in the podcast to bring these stories to you. So Get Health is their website, gethlth.com. Met Health is a discount code. Just because me, it's METHEALTH. Doesn't matter if it's capital or not, but just thank you, and please buy stuff from these guys. They really do support us, and they've been the backbone of this podcast. So they keep us going. They keep bringing these stories for you, and they let me just get up here and yammer on or whatever I do here. So thank you. Have a great day and enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome back to the Life's Best Medicine podcast. Today's a special one. I have a patient and someone who's become a friend, and I've learned a lot from in just this short time we've known each other. Tinka, welcome.
Hi.
It's so awesome to have you. Thank you. Your story's amazing, and there's so much we could talk about. We could probably make this a 5-hour episode, but tell people about yourself, growing up, what it was like in your home, and some of the struggles you went through to get to where you're at now.
Yeah, and thank you for having me here. I'm so excited.
I'm excited to have you. Yeah, and I'm excited that people can go and listen to your music and see your talent level and all that kind of stuff. So we'll send them some links and stuff at the end. But so tell people about you.
Okay, so I'm 38. I am married to Ofer. This is my husband's name. I don't have children. I'm originally from Israel, but I've been living in California for about 3 years. So if we are talking about food here, so in my childhood, I would eat the typical Middle East food, which is also like a mix between Middle East and Western food. So like America and Israel mixed together. So this was my food. So some of it was processed, some of it was not processed. And my biggest struggle during life was mental health, especially anxiety. So I don't really remember existing without anxiety. This is a family thing. So I would learn during my life. I've learned so many technique, and I was always in a therapy. I started doing meditation very early, like when I was about 16 or 17. So I've been doing meditation and yoga and Pilates, all kind of relaxation, and listening to Louise Hay, if you know her, and reading books about mental health and about how I can help myself. So food was never in my mind in regarding to my mental health. I never did a connection. I never made a connection between food and mental health, but I did use food in order to help me with my anxiety. So if I would feel anxiety, I would immediately go to certain foods that would relax my anxiety for the short time, not for the long run, but for the short time. So, but I didn't know nothing about, food and brain and gut and hormones and neurotransmitters and all the stuff that I now learn about. So when I was 29, I decided I'm going to be vegetarian. And the decision to be vegetarian was not a health decision. It was a result of someone that was very important to me. And she said a sentence. She told me, I was telling her, what is wrong of eating meat if we are treating the animal properly? And she told me, even if the animal experiences a good life, she doesn't want to die. And this was the first time that I was starting to think about what the animal wants. And this was the beginning of a very dangerous road when I stopped listening to my own body. And even though I was not so young, and I was really after a long time of mental treatment, and I was in a really good place mentally, because I had the tools to handle my life with my anxiety. But I didn't know what I was going to experience as a result of my diet, of my new diet. And it's good that I didn't know, because if I would know, I was terrified, but I didn't know what is going to happen. So I was about a year vegetarian, about 10 months. And even in these 10 months, my health already started to decline. Now, before I started with vegetarianism, I already had digestive issues because I had all my life. And I was having a hard time to digest meat. But I didn't realize that something was wrong with my gut. I thought, okay, I'm not digesting meat very well, and I want to be vegetarian, so it's good, so all good. I will just go vegetarianism, and everything will be better. So my health was actually starting to decline because I had to start taking really hard a lot of supplements, and I didn't do the connection between the vegetarianism because I was already in this mind of I don't want to hurt animals. So after about 10 months, I opened Facebook for the first time, and one of my colleagues, I was a Pilates teacher, and one of my colleagues, she was vegan. And I became friends with her on Facebook. And of course, I got to know her friends on Facebook. And I started to see the propaganda, the vegan propaganda, which is literally propaganda. Now, I want to say that it's not necessarily lies. because the industry is very cruel, but it's propaganda because you get misinformed. You see things and you think, okay, and they suffer so much. This I don't want to take a part of it. I don't want to do that. I don't want to harm animals. But when you see that, you don't see the full picture, and you don't know anything about nutrition if this is not your profession, and you just don't want, you just want to be a good person. So when I saw those videos of what's happening to the animals, I said, oh my God, this is crazy. So within a month, I became vegan. And I was telling my husband, you should go vegan, you should go vegan. And I was starting to be vegan in a religious way. I was a missionary. So I became vegan. And at first, I was feeling better because my digestive system, it was very hard for me to digest. And of course, when you go vegan, you stop eating so much junk because it's not vegan. All the non-vegan junk you stop eating, and at first you don't really know how to eat and what to eat. So I actually didn't eat a lot. So I was feeling a relief in my digestive system, and I didn't know at the time. It took time for me to get to know the vegan junk. So for about a year, I was feeling actually pretty good. And my blood test, I did a blood test about a year and a half after I started veganism, and it was very good. But then the decline was starting, and my husband also became vegan, and about 6 months after me. And I didn't see how my health starting to decline and go bad and worse and worse and worse and worse. I was inside the mindset of, I want to fix the world. I want the world to be without any violence. I don't want violence. I don't want to take a part in violence. So I was really, really sure that this is the way for everybody, not just for me. And I was sure this is also the healthiest way, because once you start to get to know vegans, even if you started because of a ethic reason, you get to know all the vegan doctors, and you start to see vegans and nutrition vegans, and you start to believe that this is really healthy, and you are already inside this bubble. So everything you see is everything you want to see. So your mind, it's like, it's a brainwash. It's brainwash. So, you don't want to see anything else. So even if you start experiencing symptoms, you blaming everything but veganism. So this is what I did. And because I was telling myself that everything that I experience is always because of my anxiety. I used to have very hard periods even before veganism. So, and I already used to have many pains in my body: jaw pain, stomach pain, migraine, anxiety, depression, schizophrenic symptoms. I wasn't healthy before. So every time I had a new symptom, or every time I experienced a worsened symptom, I blamed all the things that I already had before veganism, especially anxiety. And anxiety and mental health is tricky, because when you're stressed, everything can happen. When you're stressed, you can blame anything on stress. And this is really true, because stress is a really big factor, but it's not all to blame. There are so many factors in our life. So I was declining. And during this time, I became a vegan blogger. and I had a food blog, and I would do many recipes, and I would help people to become vegan, and I would go to vegan restaurants and to restaurant in general. I would love to go to restaurants and put my critics on restaurant. And it was like, and I was starting to have more and more followers, 1,000 followers. For Israel, 1,000 is a lot. So, and everybody in the vegan community knew me. So people would recognize me in Tel Aviv, because Tel Aviv, I would live in Tel Aviv when I was in Israel, and Tel Aviv is like the most vegan city in Israel. Veganism is like big in Tel Aviv. So people would recognize me, and everybody knew I was vegan. And so when we moved to California, I was still vegan, of course. My health was absolutely horrible. My periods would be so bad that I could not stand up straight when I had period. And my brain fog was, when I was trying to teach, I would invent like a new class for my students, and I would forget what I would planning to do. Half hour after I would decide what to do, half hour later, I would forget everything. And I would have like blackouts during the class. I would forget words, and it was like I was 90. It was like I have dementia, and I didn't have energy to work out. So I would tell myself, oh, I think I just need a change in my life, and I'm just getting older. I was like 33. I'm getting older, and I would start to see wrinkles in my body, and white hair, and black circles under the eyes. Oh, I'm just old. This is normal. And my period was so bad that I was starting to have endometriosis symptoms. It was hell, living hell. And about anxiety, so the anxiety was very, very confusing, because I was so already I was knowing so much about anxiety and how to handle it, and I was really already healed myself, like regarding like childhood trauma. So it was very confusing, because I would experience anxiety and I would not understand why. And my body was shaking, but I wasn't feeling anxiety, and I didn't understand what is happening, and I didn't know anything about blood sugar, even though my dad was a very serious diabetic. But I didn't realize that I'm eating only carbs in veganism, and I didn't realize what is happening to my gut, and what is leaky gut, and what does that mean. So I didn't realize that all the symptoms is not really anxiety. It's more like a result. Like the anxiety was a result of other stuff. It wasn't a real anxiety the way that I knew anxiety before veganism, that maybe it was childhood problems, and I went to therapy, and it was something else, but I didn't realize it. So when we moved to California, I was in a very, very stress. It was a very stressful period of time, because we left Israel and we didn't know anyone in America. And we had one woman that she helped us to find a place. She was Israeli woman, so she was a big help. But once we started to really live here, we didn't know anyone, and I am not allowed to work here. So I didn't meet any people, no one. It was just me and my husband, and I was so lonely. And I was sure that all the symptoms I experienced was because of the stress. I didn't realize that something was really wrong. And of course, the COVID started, and so everything was even more stressful. And I was starting to have such a weird symptoms, And I was sure it's all about stress. It's all about moving to America. I'm lonely. I don't know anybody. I can't sleep because I'm having my regular anxiety, but it wasn't my regular anxiety. I was actually experiencing the worst symptoms in my gut. So I would have diarrhea 10 minutes after I would eat. And I didn't know why. So I would try to change, to improve my diet. So I said, okay, so try to eat no gluten. So I did no gluten, maybe more legumes. So I would eat more legumes, and I would be like, I would be so bloated. I would be like a balloon walking, like, oh, this was horrible. And then I would try to be fruitarian. So I would feel very weak when I try. I already tried in Israel to be fruitarian, which is, like only raw food and mostly fruit. But I would do this. I would do fruitarian for 50% of my diet, because this is the what I could. So I would feel relief because I wouldn't eat legumes and grains, but I would feel so weak, and I would be shaky. Like after half an hour, it's even not half an hour, I would just be hungry 24/7. I never stopped being hungry in veganism. So really, it was the horrible and anxiety and everything. And then something in my personality started to even, it's so weird. It was like I wasn't myself anymore. And I decided to try for the first time in my life psychiatric medicine. And it was like my second worst decision after veganism, because I don't know what happened to me. It was, I know how to handle my anxiety. It was like, it wasn't me. It was like I couldn't even use my own brain to make good decisions. And I thought, okay, I really want to sing on stage. And singing on stage, it was the only thing that I couldn't handle. So I thought, okay, I'm feeling so bad, and maybe if I will take medication, I could sing on stage, and maybe I will feel better, and maybe I will sleep better. I couldn't see that I'm actually having worse symptoms than before veganism, with my anxiety also, and stuff that used to help me before veganism. For example, meditation. I would do meditation and I would be okay. So now in veganism, nothing would help. So I decided I want to try. And oh my God, this was, if I wasn't in hell already, this was definitely hell. So after a month, I decided I am stopping this medication, because if I don't, I'm about to kill myself. I was becoming suicidal. So after a month, I stopped the medication, and the side effect of stopping the medication, it was even worse of taking the medication. I can tell you, if it wasn't for my husband, I don't think I was here.
Yeah, Tinka, how did your husband handle all this? And he's vegan at the time too.
Yes.
So how was he doing emotionally? How was your relationship? All that. I mean, it's so hard to see your wife struggling mentally and emotionally and all that.
So my husband, I can talk about him forever because he's such a special person. So we actually have a very special story. We actually they wrote about us in Israeli television and the journals, because I used to suffer from something that called veganismus. I don't know how to say it in English. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know the term veganismus. Yeah, I could imagine what it is, though. Help us out.
Yeah, so it's when the muscles of the vagina, they contract.
Yeah.
And you can't do intercourse, like full intercourse. Nothing can go.
You have pain with intercourse.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not just pain. It's really it's shutting down. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I had a very hard condition with veganism. So
Yeah.
so my
I think it's the same term in the US, by the way. Yeah. I thought you were saying vegan is
in Hebrew is vaginismus. So I don't know how to say it in English. Vaginismus, maybe. So my husband, he's such a special person. So our story, I actually succeeded with the healing. I healed the vaginismus. So because this my condition was so hard, so people wanted to interview me, and it wasn't very famous condition back then. So I have a very special husband. So when you ask me about him, he's such a special person, and really he's like my guardian angel and my best friend. Really, I couldn't done.
No, I could tell that just from talking to you before. Exactly. Yeah. To go through that, because that's an important part of connection as a couple and self-esteem for him and all those things. When you know, that's a really important part of it. So it's dramatic in relationships end over this. Vaginismus, I believe, is the term. Yeah.
And the thing is that he's always believing in me. So when I'm saying, let's go vegan, he's okay, let's go vegan. So when I stopped being vegan, he saw what is happening to me. But when I stopped the medication,
was he seeing it? He was seeing what was happening. Did he ever attribute this? Say, hey, maybe it's your diet that's the part of the problem, or was it he just supported you in what you were doing?
He just supported me and frankly, we were both brainwashed. So what happened was, after I stopped the medication, I started to faint in my periods. So this is when we realized, okay, something is really, really wrong. And when I was hospitalized, and they told me, okay, your iron is, oh my God, you don't have any iron in your body. So that's when I realized, how is it that I don't have iron when I eat everything I'm supposed to eat as a vegan? And then I realized, okay, maybe I have a absorption problem. I didn't blame the veganism yet. I thought, okay, I'm just having absorption problem, and
plus you're having very heavy periods too, so you're losing a lot of blood. You're not getting a lot of iron in. Yeah, exactly. It makes sense.
Yes, but I was still thinking that this is only me to blame. I didn't realize that there is something wrong with veganism. So what happened was, I stopped veganism, but I still thought this is only me the problem. So my husband was still vegan. And then when I started eating, the first thing I ate was chicken, and I was feeling better. And then after about 2 weeks, I was eating chicken. I found something that it blew my mind. I found ex-vegans videos. And this was the first time I heard someone telling exactly what I experienced. Of course, in a little bit different, everybody's a little bit different, but it was exactly the same path. Like, she became vegan, she felt good. After a while, she started to decline. And then she got to a point that she was almost dying. She was like, and then I found another video and another video and another video. And I was like, oh my God, I was in a shock. And then I started to realize, okay, something is going on here. And I started to get to know the low-carb world. I started to first I got to know GAPS diet. Someone sent me the GAPS diet, and my husband also. So now we were both not vegan. I told him, listen, this is wrong. And suddenly I also started to notice my husband's symptoms, because before I said, okay, he's also in stress. Oh, all good. He's just in stress. Suddenly I heard men and women, ex-vegans, telling exactly the same symptoms. And I said, okay, oh my God, so we need to stop this diet. And then we started to know GAPS, and then keto and carnivore, and now it's been 3 years, and we are both much better. And yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I love, I think it's really helpful for people. You inherently, and this is the thing I love about you, is you inherently say something's wrong. I got to change something. So when you have anxiety, growing up in a stressful home, being wired for anxiety, and there's data on all of this stuff, but you started doing Pilates, you become a Pilates instructor, you're doing meditation, yoga, all these things to say this works for my anxiety and I'm getting better. Tons of data on this that when you can control your breathing, you get a deeper breath, anxiety gets better, parasympathetic goes up when you're on overdrive stress. And probably, just listening to your story, part of it was probably, you already have a messed up gut, right? And then you come here and just the stress of moving, being away from family and friends, and not knowing anyone. Loneliness has a huge factor in this stuff too. So tons of data. As a matter of fact, Dom D'Agostino is a editor on one of the articles I just read, saying that, loneliness and it can make all the metabolic stuff worse, and mitochondrial dysfunction and all these things we talk about. It's amazing when you experience it and see it and go, okay. And if your gut microbiome is screwed up already, and then you get stressed, it screws it up worse because you kill off the mucus layer in your colon. And so a lot of people with colitis, stress was definitely an initiating factor. So being stressed and having your body in this stress mode where you're shaking and weak and tired and fatigued, and your body knows something's wrong, you start going into this sympathetic tone where your body's in panic mode all the time. Like, you're not eating enough, I'm not getting enough nutrition, I'm going to start slowing down your brain functioning. And you experience all these things. It's not theoretical, it's real when you experience it. So it's amazing too. And then your husband goes through the same journey, and then he started feeling better when he started liberalizing his diet a bit.
Yes. So my symptoms were much worse, but he's also was not in a good condition when we stopped veganism, and now we are both much better. And the thing with the loneliness, I think that also when you are alone in your experience, you don't really know if what you're experiencing is normal. And I don't know what about you, but I tend to blame myself and think always bad stuff about myself. I'm doing it wrong. I'm not good enough. This is all my fault. I don't eat clean enough. So
well, it's the same thing. I'll tell you, people on the other spectrum who are trying to lose weight, they do a program and they lose weight initially, then they get it all back plus some, and they say, well, I got weak, I got tired. But really, there's so much emotional stuff, and there's so much that starvation just doesn't work for anyone. It just doesn't work long term. Your body will adapt to that. Your body wants to keep you alive despite your crazy stuff that you're doing, right? But you're right. A lot of us tend to blame ourselves, and that's an important topic also, because a lot of people in their mind, they say we have between 60 and 40 or 6,000 and 40,000 thoughts a day. 85% are negative. And guess what? 95% of the thoughts of yesterday are the ones we're going to have tomorrow. And so you start realizing, we start thinking these things. You're not good enough. You're not, and in you, I just see that you're a compassionate, kind person, and you want to do the right thing, and you want people to be happy, and, you're a nurturer, all those things. And so it's hard when you're doing these things and you're feeling depressed, anxious, stressed, and not right. And something's not right. And then you've already made a name for yourself as a blogger. Now it's like, now what do I do? So what was that decision like when you came out and said, hey, everyone, here's I've made a change in my life?
Yeah, so telling the world was one of the worst moments of my life, because the amount of anxiety I felt of telling, I was so afraid to tell the people.
How long were you off the vegan diet before you came out and said something?
About 2 weeks, because
Wow.
I felt I am cheating. I felt like I'm lying to my followers.
Yeah, it's having an integrity and saying, hey, here's what I'm doing now. Because, it happens all the time where vegan influencers that, like, a picture comes up of them eating a steak or eating fish or something, and everyone flips out on them. Like, you're a hypocrite, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I actually think that I feel very thankful for God or the universe that I wasn't in Israel, because I told you people would know me. And in Israel, when I would go in Tel Aviv, people would recognize me sometimes from the vegan community. And here I had, my privacy. So this was a good thing for me, not to know here Israeli people, not to know vegans here. But I was so stressed about telling the followers and the vegan community that I started to suffer. There was a specific night I was about to go crazy, and I was having diarrhea all night because of the stress. And yes, this is now it's very confusing because I was having diarrhea because my gut was in a really bad shape, but I could feel that the stress is making it much, much worse. And I didn't sleep the whole night. And then 5 a.m., I decided I'm writing a post. And once I wrote the post, my diarrhea was better.
Sometimes just getting up the stress of doing it. Once you pull the trigger and do it, you go, okay, I'm done. It's out there in the universe. But then you go, now people are going to see that.
Yes.
Right.
Now, of course, it was still hard because I knew I am going to get feedback, very hard feedback from people. And I knew that I'm going to have a lot of evil comments, but I had to put it out. I had people to know that I'm not vegan anymore. And the reaction of the closest friend was the most hard thing. I pretty much lost my friend. So if I wasn't lonely enough, now I was definitely lonely. But the feeling that the most close people that you have, the best friend you have, choose the healthy, choose the health of the animal and not the health of you. And I care about the animal. I can understand that.
It's the same. A lot of us doctors felt the same way when we said, here's what I'm seeing in clinic. Here's stuff I'm seeing with COVID or whatever it might be. And when it's not the popular story, people get mad at you. Your best friends will turn on you. I had that happen. But it's the truth. Here's what I'm seeing. I'm not going to, if I'm lying, then yeah, you shouldn't like me. But if what I'm saying is the truth and what you're saying is the truth of what happened for you, and it may not be for everyone, but it's hard when your closest friends aren't saying, hey, maybe there's something to it. Maybe, have you suffer the rest of your life when you're miserable and depressed and anxious and having schizophrenic type stuff happening? Or do you say, okay, I care about you, and if that works for you, it's fine. Like, that's a huge thing. Even the low carb keto, you see someone have a piece of bread and was like, oh my gosh, how could you do that? It's like, well, they felt like having a piece of sourdough bread. Okay, it's not going to kill them. It's not a big deal, but they treat you as if you're a traitor to the cause, and that's not very nice.
I think when nutrition and ideology mix together, that's when it becomes dangerous, and that's when we start to act in a cult way. My friends, my two best friends, I have to say they really tried to be, decent, to be good with me, but it was really hard for them. And at some point they told me, we don't want to hear what you experience. But I couldn't, it was like they are telling me, oh, you are in suffer, we don't want to know, because the suffering wasn't stopped once I stopped veganism. I only started the recovery process. I just started the healing.
Yeah, you're only 2 weeks in at this point. Yes. You're only 2 weeks in, but you're feeling that much better where you feel like you have to say something.
Yes, and it was so hard. The recovery was so hard. So when my friend, she was asking me, oh, hi, how you doing? And I can't tell her how I'm doing. So I was starting to think, so what kind of a friendship is it? I don't understand. It was very confusing.
And let's step back for a second, Tinka, because you mentioned something to me when we were talking before. You said you started getting militant in that too, like in your blogs, that people weren't vegan, like you would get mad at them.
Yes. You mean, when you say militant, like you mean?
What I mean, like you were very like, how dare people not eat vegan? Like they're cruel to animals and all that. And you said you were not friendly to a lot of people who would question you on it. I'm embarrassed to say that I was exactly the same. Well, I didn't really know about ex-vegans. I only heard about like really famous ex-vegans. For example, Miley Cyrus.
So when I heard about Miley Cyrus, I said, oh, she doesn't have a brain. She just wants to be famous. She don't know anything. She just need attention. Of course, I would patronize her and I would think, oh, she doesn't know anything. Of course, the truth, I have the truth. And if I would meet someone that is not vegan, I would behave like a crazy person, like no compassion at all for people that say, no, I need the meat for my health. No compassion. So I would be compassion when I wanted to help the person become vegan.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a religion, right?
Yes.
Like people say, I'll tolerate you if you come to my religion, but if not, I'm not. Not as a person, like, and they see you as a vegan or as a animal killer, and that's one thing I've noticed in my practice. Practicing 20 years, I've seen a lot of vegans come in with mental illness, stress, anxiety, and I always wondered, and I don't want to be controversial. I'm not saying it's everyone, but what I'm saying is, it was clear enough that I saw, and I didn't know whether it was people that were very legalistic go into veganism and that's a control, like I'm not eating meat and I'm doing this my way, or whether there was something that was developing over time. Because I've talked to a lot of vegans who became ex-vegans because they said, I just couldn't focus. I got, like, what you're saying is not unusual. I think yours is more dramatic than most, but a lot of people said I started having relationship problems, fighting with people. I would get into fights with people because they wanted to eat turkey on Thanksgiving. I wanted tofurkey or whatever, right? And it became this thing where it was like dividing people and the families, and there was agitation and depression and overreacting to minor stuff. I was like, wow, maybe I always wonder. I'm like, well, wonder if it's the type of person, or is it the idea of once you buy in, you're like, I can't change what I'm doing, and now I'm mentally getting agitated with everyone. It's like, you know what? A big part of life is being at peace with other people, right? Like you're saying, it's like, I don't want to lose my compassion and my kindness for people and say, well, if you're not this, then I'm not going to be your friend. And that's what we've seen over the last few years, is that people just can't have a debate or a discussion or say, hey, look, when you're feeling really bad, maybe you need to make a change. Maybe if you're carnivore and you're not feeling great, and we'll talk about that a little bit, that you need to make a change. And so it's hard when your whole all your support system goes against you and you're a traitor and they think you don't know and you're just not doing it right, but they just haven't been doing it long enough to get the bad effects, right?
Exactly.
So, and the other thing I've really noticed, and I've interviewed Sean Baker on this podcast, who's a carnivore, and he showed me some of the hate mail he's got and how nasty and vicious. I'm thinking, this is just not normal. Like, I've never attacked someone because you're vegan or whatever. It's like, okay, cool, that works for you, fine. If you're happy and content and life's good. But if you were my patient going through all that stuff, I'd be like, maybe we should like add in some eggs or something. Let's try to figure out if that makes you feel better. When you're feeling miserable, if my religion makes me a nasty person and bitter to be around, everyone sees me crying all day and fighting with everyone, they're going, Brian, your religion doesn't seem very good to me. I don't think I want to follow that religion.
Yeah. About what you just said, about the symptoms, you're saying like they just haven't been long enough. As a vegan, and then they will have the symptoms. But many of the people that made angry about ex-vegans already have symptoms, but they don't contribute it to veganism. So
some anxiety or global warming or
yes,
your neighbor's being a jerk or whatever, right?
Everything else but veganism. So it's very sad, because a lot of people that would express hate towards me, they would be sick, and I know, because I know the people. I really know them, like in reality, and also some of them only Facebook, but I know even what they have. Many of them on psychiatric drugs, many of them with eating disorders, and many of them have joint problems. Yes, so I know
osteoporosis, fractures. Yes. Yeah,
I know they are sick, because I know them. I know those people when they are angry at me, when I'm saying.
Well, and it's hard because the ironic thing about this is most people who go into veganism is because it's an altruistic thing. You want to say, hey, I don't want to kill animals. I want to be kind and I want to be decent. But then they're attacking everyone, like attacking and wanting to kill humans. Like I just saw someone with a vegan who said like when she dies, she wants people to eat her so they don't eat an animal, they'll eat her instead. It's like, wow, that's kind of crazy. Or people I've heard that say, well, yeah, if there was a dog or a person, gonna get killed by a train, who would you say first? The dog. Like, the animal's more important than people. And you start thinking, wow, what kind of relationships do you have? I love my dog, but I'm gonna choose my wife over my dog if
Yeah,
it comes down
yeah.
to it, right?
I think that it's also about mental health. There is something that in veganism, also people that before veganism has mental health, I think they are more drawn to veganism. But veganism, you lack of nutrients. And if I would have to like say what is the most what is the big mental health in veganism, is not able to contain reality. Because when you can't really contain reality, then you will be angry about people when they don't do what you think they should do. And you can't contain the suffering and death in life. You just cannot contain anything. So it's like you are broken, and no matter what is wrong in life, you just can't stand it, and you can't hear it, and you can't see it, and you're just mad. You're just angry about everything. So when I went carnivore, this is one of the biggest shifts that I had. I feel that I can contain life in a peaceful mind. So even if you don't agree with me, that's okay. I can accept the reality the way it is. So this is like
How do you justify going from, okay, I don't want to hurt animals, to all of a sudden eating animals? How do you justify that in your mind, where you go, how did you feel? How did you go, like, how did you like take that first bite of chicken, right? How do you go from that, like, oh, I want to not kill stuff, to saying, okay, I have to do this for my own good, if that makes sense?
Well, first of all, my instinct of wanting to live woke up when I suddenly felt that I'm going to die. This is when I realized I want to live. And if living means killing, I will kill. This was a big shift for me in my way of thinking, because then it was the first time that I really felt what is a really instinct, survival instinct. And I was like, wow, I want to live, even if it means harming somebody else. So this was the first step. And then I said to myself, okay, I want to live. Now, how do I do that with the minimum of harm? But then I also started to learn more deep about the whole subject of killing animals. I know now that actually as a carnivore, I kill less animal than I killed as a vegan, especially if I eat grass-fed. So I actually kill much less animals. Also, another thing I didn't know, I thought that, farming is only mean like a cockroach dying. It's not only cockroach, it's birds
And rabbits, the
and
rabbits
rabbit
eat the
and
stuff you have to kill. I mean, there's so many animals that if you go, anyone who's been on a
exactly.
farm knows exactly what you're
And
talking.
cute animals that as a vegan I would want to stroke, not kill. And I was in shock when I realized that. So I said, oh my God, I was receiving misinformation. This is lies, because it's just lies, because being vegan doesn't mean you don't kill, but it's not only means that you don't kill, you are definitely kill, but you kill more as a vegan. You destroy earth as a vegan. You destroy even more the living, all the living in the planet. And I didn't realize that. So I understand that now. So I'm saying, okay, we have to kill in order to live, and we have to accept that. But how to kill, how much to kill, how we should do the farming. So this is so now I'm learning this.
And doing it in a compassionate way, where you love
Yes,
the animals,
yes.
you treat them right. And I've been to ranches, I've seen farmers, how they treat their animals. You go, wow, they want their animals to not be stressed, intense, and where they're not going to gain as much weight if they're stressed, intense, and worried. So that yeah, like these, like people who know ranchers, like I've talked to these guys and they go, no, I can't go to the hospital. No one's going to feed the cows tomorrow. I got to make sure the animals are taken care of. That's their whole thing in life. They're shepherds to these animals too. But when you see them as evil and bad, and then people go and they kill the animals so that the farmers can't leave, all these kind of stuff you see and you go, this doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's just over the top type stuff to say, okay, I will do my part and not eat animals if that's what I think is going to save the world, but not everyone else has to do it. Like I don't tell everyone else, don't drive your car because it's causing pollution, or don't fly, or don't go on a cruise ship, which pollutes way more than all these people on their private yachts saying don't drive your little mini car or whatever around. So it gets to this point where it's like, okay, we have to, there's risk and benefits to everything. And you start looking, it's like, well, when you're feeble and sick and depressed, and you can't have sex because you're having vaginal spasm and all these things, like something's wrong. I got to fix these problems. So in doing that, you get healthier. And instead of your friends saying, oh my gosh, you found a new religion and it's working for you, great. They say, you're a traitor.
Yes, and I think about that also. The thing is that vegans would say, oh, we know there is still bad stuff happening in the world. We're just trying to minimize. But this is the big lie, in my opinion, because veganism is not doesn't minimize the suffer. It's actually increasing the suffer. And this is what I didn't realize, because not only it's increasing human suffer, because this is not our nature to be vegan, it's increasing earth suffering. And this is the big confusion here. Because if we would really want to reduce suffer, we would do sustainable farming, animal sustainable farming, because we need animals. Also, in order to grow plants, we need animals. So veganism, it's like a delusion, It's not.
And people don't realize too is that you're using bone meal, you're using the fertilizer from the cows and all this. You can't just get rid of cows and think that's going to fix the problem. And then you also have to understand that there's a ton of land that cows can live on and goats and sheep can live on, but you can't grow crops because you got rocks all over. You're not going to grow anything, and you think about how much water you're using and fertilizer, and, so many chemicals, and you're destroying the topsoil. Plus, in underserved areas, they're ripping down the trees to build farmland. And, it is people just don't, if you educate yourself, you realize, I think there's some, like Rob Wolf has done some good work on this. And a lot of people are showing sustainable agriculture, where you grow the cows there one year and then you move them to the next field and you let the stuff grow there. And if you could figure those things out and demand that kind of stuff too, and say we don't believe in big feedlots or eating veal with the little animals is suffering. And there's a lot of stuff where a lot of us want to do the right thing, and you go, look, I want to eat, if I know the rancher and I can get a cow off their lot and I know they're doing the right thing, and you feel a lot better about it for sure.
And for me, the right thing is, first of all, be healthy and happy, because sick people cannot change the world for better. Sick people change the world not for better, because they can't really see reality the way it is, and they can't really handle reality if they are crazy and sick. We need to be
and not only that, all these medications, the carbon footprint of all these pharmaceutical companies and what they're doing and what they're pouring in the oceans. And people don't realize the big, when you look at this big in the big picture, having sick population is not good for the world, and having mentally ill people that are agitated and want to kill each other is not good for the world. It's not good for anything. So I think that's a huge thing that people don't talk about enough. And then just figuring out what the right path is for you. So then what happened, which is, I think, is interesting. So you went pretty strict carnivore, and then what happened?
So I first went to GAPS diet, then to keto. But what happened was that I realized that the less plants I eat, the better I feel. So then when I went carnivore, I ate a small amount of fruit. And this was the best for me, like 95% animal food and about 5% fruit. And then what happened was I lost my appetite. So that's why I went back to eating plants. And now I'm trying to figure out exactly what is right for my body. So I'm still mostly animal food, but I'm trying, I'm playing with it a little bit to understand. but the benefit that I experienced in carnivore, wow, it was like, I can't even start to describe, because everything that I thought I knew and that I thought I already healed, or I thought that I healed the most I can, I suddenly discovered that I can heal more. It was like, if I need to like say it in a short sentence, before this whole journey, I could handle my anxiety because I had the tools. But when I went carnivore, I just didn't have any anxiety. So I didn't have anything to handle. It was like going to heaven, but still being alive.
And that's what's amazing. I've had this. I don't know if you've come across Brett Lloyd. Have you heard of him?
Who?
His name's Brett Lloyd.
No.
I'll connect you to, but he almost had a religious awakening. He's a spiritual guy too. But when he went carnivore, he had depression, anxiety, schizophrenia. He had it all, like bipolar, agitation, everything. And he went carnivore and his whole life changed. And he's smiling and laughing and happy all the time. And all these people give him hate and he just loves them back because he's like, hey, this is working for me, you know? And his labs got better. Everything got better for him. Right. And I was asking him, is this like, I see religious experiences where someone has a religious experience and they have a massive change and they're a jerk before. Now they're kind to everyone and they're nice and they're serving the community. But carnivore seems to do that for some people. And I've seen that. And I've talked about it on our low carb MD podcast a lot of times, like, wow, it's amazing the shift. Like to see you smiling and happy and content and loving people and you get back to your nature. You wonder what would happen if you never changed back.
Yes, yes. I think that we tend to separate spirituality from our physical body, but it's not. I don't think it's really separated, because hormones and neurotransmitters and our brain is connected to spirituality, and we experience spirituality also through our brain and neurons, and
well, and also physically, you were having this vagal response when you had to write that letter or do the vlog, right? Because you have to do it and you don't want to do it and you're forced to do it and you have to do it. I don't want to do it. And then you go through this thing and you get diarrhea all the time. And people all the time when they're stressed, if you have to give a speech, you get shaky. And people, they say it scares the crap out of you. It's true. It does. People lose control of stuff because fear does this. It's a instinct and a reaction. So, if someone gets really scared, they pee their pants. They can't, you lose control over these things. So when you start realizing, yeah, there is a connection, and the more I'm around, the more I realize like spiritual hurts or child abuse or these things that run in the family and trauma that we say, I'll just get over and move on. So, well, you don't realize it changes the physiology and the brain chemistry and how everything works. So when you start realizing, yeah, the brain is in fact attached to the body, that they do influence each other, you start realizing, yeah, your mental attitude, your stress levels, anxiety, friendship, loneliness, all these things affect us. So if we think, oh, I'll just eat this diet and everything will get better, it doesn't. It may be a part for sure. Like you said, if you went carnivore and help, but saying, okay, I'll have my yoga, I'll do my exercise, I'll do my activity, I'll count my blessings and be positive. That makes bigger difference. Because I think you can eat carnivore and be a jerk to everyone and not have the benefits, yeah. Right? You have some benefits, but if you're stressed and tense and worried, you have neck pain and migraines, then okay, we got to fix those problems. But so much of it is our outlook on life and how we deal. And so over time, have people reached out to you from the vegan community that are struggling, or people that had attacked you before say, hey, you know what, I started having stuff, or have you not experienced that?
Yeah, so it actually happened immediately. So people started sending me messages, and then I realized how much people are afraid to speak. So after a while, I decided to open a new blog for ex-vegans. And then, so now, yes, so I have a blog now. It's about nutrition and about veganism. And the purpose is to just bring the truth to the surface without fearing. So I have a channel on YouTube, and the channel on YouTube, it's mostly for Hebrew speakers, because I put
subtitles.
Yes, but also English speakers, maybe can find good stuff there, because what I do in a lot of the videos there, I take one symptom and I collect a lot of testimonies. So I have a video of period problems from veganism, and mental health problems from veganism, and teeth problem from veganism, and a lot of testimony, and it gives you like a picture. And yeah, so this I have, and I have the blog also on Facebook in Hebrew. Yeah, so many people talk to me about it from Israel mostly.
So people are interested, they want to track you down. You have to, we'll put it in the show notes, because I know a lot of people are driving and doing stuff so they can't write it down, but you can go to the show notes and get it. But do you have any specific YouTube channels, things like that, that people should go to find you?
So the English one is the Ex-Vegan's Truth. And there is my music, which is just Tinka. But you have to search for one of my songs, because I don't have so many followers. If you just search for Tinka, you can find it. So you can search like Tinka, I Am a God. I have a song, I Am a God. And I have my Hebrew channel, which is Tinka Naamatzis. So it's just for Hebrew speakers. And people can send me emails and can find me on Facebook and Instagram in the same pages.
So you're getting more love these days.
Love and hate at the same time.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. It's a hard one. It's a tough one.
I actually had to take a little break from Facebook, but it's a little bit, it's hard, but I'm not going to shut up just because people will not shut me up. So yes, but I also get a lot of love, really, like.
Well, to see you smiling, to hear you talk about your husband. I mean, so many people are in hard relationships, and you've been through a lot. I mean, to go through all the stuff you've both been through, you know, it's a big change. And then did his anxiety and mood stuff and all that, did it change when he started eating meat also?
Yeah, so he's much better. He had all kinds of problems. He doesn't really want me to tell what exactly.
No, it's okay. We don't have to talk about the details, but yeah.
But really, his condition mentally and physically is much better. I'm so happy that we did this change. Just, I'm willing to suffer if it will make me feel better, and him. I'm saying to myself, like, it was worth it, because now I know he's more healthy and I'm more healthy, and yeah.
Yeah, and all those things, and how life gets how life does better, you know, for all of you, you know.
Yes.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Somehow I activated my phone while we're talking. My phone activated somehow while we're talking here. I don't know what's going on, but it's sitting by itself and it starts going off. I'm like, what's going on with my phone? All right. Anyways, I have to ask you, in retrospect, all these things, and I thank you so much for joining me. I know it's hard to talk about a lot of this stuff, but what's life's best medicine for you? Like, what gets you up? What gets you going? Where do you get your joy, your pleasure, your drive, all these things? Like, what's life's best medicine for Tinka?
Well, for me, it's radical self-acceptance, because no matter where I am, what I'm still learning, what I still don't know, what mistakes I have made, radical self-acceptance. This is the basic. And this is what God gives me. This is what I believe is the meaning of God. Self-acceptance, because we are here for a journey, and that's okay. That's okay to suffer, to be confused, to make mistakes. You know, I'm doing like this because I don't really see things as mistakes. This is our journey. We are here to learn. So self-acceptance, it's the basic for me.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think that's true, especially with anxiety and mood stuff and all that, because so many people look at themselves in the mirror and they just see the bad, or they look at their partner and they just see the bad, or they look at their job and just see the bad. And, you know, I was looking up, there's something called, they call it like optorectoclosis or something like that, which where your optic nerve is attached to your rectal nerve, and you have a negative, it's not true, but you have a negative outlook on everything. I see some people go through life and I'll ask them, you know, it's been a surprise for me as a doctor for 20 years, how many people I'll ask them a question. Hey, what's life's best medicine? Basically, like, what do you do for fun? When's the last time you laughed? And they look at me like I'm like, it's a trick question. They're like, I work and I go home. and I go to sleep and I wake up and I work. And, and it's like, wow, like, for you, I know you're passionate about your music and doing videos, and you have your husband in one of them. We'll let people find him. And, things like that, where you have a passion that gets you out of bed, that gets you going. And I think so many people have to look at that and say, what do I do for fun? Well, if my job's that terrible, what do I do to make it better? If my relationship's bad, what do I have to do to make it better? And sometimes you go through the fire and you come out the other side a better person. I think all of us who've gone through life struggles, we come out the other side. And the more you come out the other side, you realize when you go through the next struggle, like, oh, I made it that was worse than what I'm going through now. So I'll probably make this one too, and you don't worry so much. And your story of, all that, having to change your whole life for all these years was one thing. And then you have to say, this isn't working. And then changing course. And all the great doctors I know, all the great scientists I know have sat there and said, wait a minute, maybe what I'm saying is incorrect. Let me look at that. Professor Tim Noakes being one of them, who's a huge example, who said, I told everyone to eat carbs and do all this stuff, and I realized it was killing people, and I have to change what I'm doing. And then everyone hated him, and he had to go through that, but he didn't step down. He stood up, and that's what you're doing. And I love that fierce spirit in you, being smiling and kind, but saying, hey, look, I'm standing up for what's right. And I'm going to tell the truth, even no matter what the cost is. And that's more of us should be like that.
Yeah. I think that sharing your story and telling your truth is so important these days. We have this wonderful way to connect with each other, because we have this internet and all this stuff. So actually sharing your story and just telling your truth has so much power.
Yeah. And also just not being in fear and like going, people are going to get upset if I tell the truth of what happened to me. And that's so hard. And so many people are afraid. And I know so many doctors and friends who are afraid to tell their story, because they'll say, well, if I struggle with pornography, no one will like me. If I struggle with this, or I struggle with alcohol, I don't want people to know. But it's those scars that help. Like you sharing your journey, you could say, look, here's my story. And no one can argue with your story. I can't say, well, what you're doing now is wrong. You're smiling and happy and you're not schizophrenic. You're enjoying life and your relationship's better and you can smile and laugh. I say, well, that's wrong. You're doing it wrong. Like I see it all the time. If you want criticism on social media, just put a picture of what you're eating for lunch, and everyone's gonna say, oh, you have vegetables. Why do you have vegetables? Or why do you have meat there? Why is it on a paper plate? Why is it on this? Oh, you're using silverware? Why don't you? And you go, oh my gosh, just relax. Let me do what I'm doing. You do your thing and we'll be all okay. So I think part of that is what you're saying, is having a peace, a self-acceptance. That is, like you said, heaven. Like when you can say, hey, I'm not such a bad person. I'm doing the best I can. I made mistakes, or you made poor choices. We've all made poor choices and poor things. That, okay, I can't fix, eating cake all those years. Now I got to fix it. I can't just hate myself for it. So there's so much in this episode. Tinka, I knew it would be great, and it's even better than I thought it would be having you. Your spirit, your kindness, and speaking the truth with love. That's really, really critical. So yeah, it's so great on a Friday afternoon to spend this with you. And everyone, this is like platinum here. This is really important. This is one you'll want to share with your friends and family and people who are struggling. And, especially with mental health issues, we have to look at the nutrition. We have to look at self-love and stress and sleep and loneliness. There's tons of science out there. My job is to follow the science. And not only that, is to make observations in what I'm seeing in my clinic, and then say, let me look to the science to see if there's something that supports what I'm seeing. I don't know why I'm seeing it sometimes, but I do see that when people are eating healthier, their mood gets better, their joint pains get better, their stomach gets better, their all kinds of stuff gets better. And my job gets a lot easier in that case, but don't forget about the childhood trauma, the stress, the PTSD. Have compassion for people going through it, and just loving on people and helping people to to get a better path. And I have to ask you, Tinka, I'm sorry, I'm going to extend it for another couple of seconds here. What advice would you give to someone who's in a vegan lifestyle? Their whole life is built around it, and all of a sudden they're starting to have mental health issues or joint problems or teeth problems. And like, what would you tell them? Like, what would be the first steps that would help them to get on a path to better health?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing, whether you decide to stay vegan or not, is to be open for new possibilities, not to be closed-minded, because no matter what you choose, if you're closed-minded, you're not getting new information. So you don't know what is going to happen. You don't know what kind of information you might get if you will open the door. So just open the door. I'm not saying you have to go through the door. Just open it, and then you will see.
That's great advice. Yeah, knock on the door and the door will be opened. Those kind of things, and look and say, okay, things aren't going well. And then I think coming to terms with stuff. If it's not working, if what I'm doing is not working, I have to change what I'm doing. I pulled the lever, and that's what I love about you. And the first time we met, I was like, you're trying different things. And you say, okay, I feel better when I add vegetables in. I can eat more food, or I could eat more butter when I have cucumber, like you said. So okay, that's working for you. Let's do it. Let's see how you feel and how you're doing. And as long as you're doing fine, just keep going through that door. And if the door's not working for you, go through a different door, or keep changing the door. Don't say, I said this 10 years ago that I would never fall in love again, so I'm never going to fall in love again, just to prove the point that I was right 10 years ago, instead of falling in love and being happy, right? So many people are like that, where they just can't change path. And so many doctors and people I look at, I go, you're miserable, but you won't change your path. You have to change your path if you're miserable. If your sugars are 400, we got to change something. We got to do something different. So that's what I love about you, is trying different things. And everyone out there, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Even if they eat a different diet than you do, give them a break. Maybe they'll come to your brilliance at some point. Maybe they won't. If they don't follow your religion, don't hate them, love them as a person. And maybe someday they go, you know what? You seem like what you're doing is pretty good. But I guarantee you, if you call them an idiot and hate on them, they're never going to follow your path, because no one wants to follow a path like that. They want to be joyful and happy. And so if you want to be like Tinka, reach out to her, and listen to her music. It's very positive, very cool. And I think that's a lot of wisdom, is not being arrogant and just looking at yourself that you're wonderful and narcissistic. It's really accepting yourself where you are and saying, okay, I want to make myself better. What can I do to make myself a better person? How can I leave a better impact on the world?
Yeah. And knowing that, we are not helpless. We have the reins in our hands. So yeah.
Take control of the reins. Yeah, make the horse do what you want it to do. You don't let the horse tell you where to go.
It doesn't mean that we can control everything, but that's okay. But we still have the reins in our hands, and we can do stuff with them.
Yeah, and then you change your horse if you have to. Whatever you got to do. So everyone, thank you, Tinka. Thank you. Have a great weekend, and it's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify, or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information, and hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.